You want to start us?
Yes, sir. The live stream is up. You're good to go.
Thank you. I want to welcome everybody to the hybrid meeting of the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen. This is 26th of January 2021. We have 5 members of the board here in person at City Hall, and we have the other 8 members of the board joining us via Zoom. Appreciate that very much. I want to go ahead and start with Annette calling the roll, please.
Brown.
I'm here.
Campbell.
Here.
Collins.
Here.
Cunningham.
Sorry, here.
That's okay. Dixon.
Here.
Edwards. Edwards.
Good point. Here.
Okay. Hayes.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Petrelli.
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Skidmore.
Here.
Waters. Alderman Waters.
Push the button. You're good now. Here.
Thank you. And Clary.
Here.
All are present, all 13.
Appreciate that. We're going to start as we typically do, and that's with a prayer and pledge. But let me go ahead and say right now, we're going to make mistakes tonight. We're going to have some errors. We're going to have some glitches. So I appreciate everybody's patience with this, especially the folks here, as well as the folks out there. We've just got a lot going on right now, but certainly we are happy to be here again in person and look forward to everybody being in person. So please join me for the prayer and pledge. I want to mention a couple people specifically. Dr. Ray Fuller recently passed away from COVID. Kathleen Hawkins, who many of us know, is in the hospital in the transplant unit of Vanderbilt. Joe Skidmore, who's been in our prayers for more than 2 weeks now, and Margie, Pat Campbell's sister, certainly somebody we need to pray for as well. Jennifer Anglin, she is in the hospital currently, and Jim Bundy. A lot of us know the Bundy family, so appreciate your prayers for them. Please join me in prayer now. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together, and thank you for this opportunity to serve you. And thank you so much for the opportunities you present to us here, as well as when we go from here. Help us to use the gifts, talents, and the abilities, the wisdom you've given us, not just here tonight, but after we leave here. Thank you so much for the people who protect us here and the people who protect us far away. And please especially look after folks that are sick and the families that are caring for them, and the doctors and nurses and the loved ones who are caring for them. And as I just mentioned, Dr. Ray Fuller, his family, Kathleen Hawkins, Joe Skidmore, Pat Campbell's sister Margie, Jennifer Anglin, and Jim Bundy and his family. Appreciate so much what you do for us here and allow us to do for the people of Hendersonville. And thank you so much. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America. To the republic stands
one nation, indivisible, with liberty,
God with liberty and justice for all.
couple things I'm going to ask the folks that are here is when you speak, lean into your microphone. We have a little bit of an audio issues that we've overcome, but it's important that you speak in the microphone when you're here. And I'm also going to entertain a motion to accept the agenda. But I want to mention that we do have somewhat of a consent agenda, and those are the items you see, A, B, C, and D, and E, that I intend that we would vote for all as a group. If anybody would like to have one of those pulled out, please let me know. But I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda at this point. So moved. Alderman Robertson and a second from Alderman Skidmore. What I would like to do is I would like to add at the very end, before the mayor's report, I would like to add a discussion on committee reports, just a discussion. And as if it gets later, certainly that discussion will probably be shorter. But just under other agenda items, I'd like to add a discussion on committee reports, and then the mayoral report will be item B. So I'll make that motion. A second from Alderman Edwards. Any discussion on that item? All those in favor of adding that item on the agenda, that would be item A, a discussion on committee reports, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Okay, could I get the motion and second on that, please? I apologize.
Sure, I made the motion and Alderman Edwards made the second. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Shoot. There we go. Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
Okay, it is unanimous.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, Annette. Any other discussion on the agenda as it's been amended? I don't see anything. If I'm missing something, please jump up and scream. All those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Passed unanimously. Thank you, Annette. Next item on the agenda is a presentation from Craft CPAs for the fiscal year 2019-2020 audit. That's coming via Zoom. On your agenda, it says FY 19-20. Just want to make sure, I'm sorry, on the agenda, it says FY 18-19. I want to make sure, and I'm sure the Craft CPAs folks were surprised to hear that they were given a presentation on last year's audit. So we're going to go ahead and do this and do the most recent audit that they finished. So Julie and Ken, please go ahead.
Great. Well, thank you, Mayor. And we appreciate the opportunity to serve as your auditors and have a little bit of time at your meeting today to give you the results of the audit. We issued the audit back in December, late December, and there are two things that we'll cover with you today. So I'm going to go over a few required communications. I'm sharing my screen for those of you who are online. Not sure if those in the they're live in person can see this, but I'll just talk through a couple of brief comments. First of all, in our required communications, we have an engagement letter with the city that is also with our firm and then also the state of Tennessee to perform the audit in accordance with government auditing standards. So if you want to see a copy of that or need that information, happy to share that with you. A couple of other general things to share with you. You didn't have any new accounting policies that were adopted for this accounting period. Feel like you're using preferable accounting practices when there is a choice of different policies or practices that you could use. Didn't have anything significant or unusual that we identified during the course of the audit. Also pleased to report to you that we didn't have any disagreements or significant difficulties that we encountered. Certainly this year with coronavirus, we had more of our audit that we were able to do remotely. Certainly we had some time there as well, but we had really great cooperation from your team, from the city, and so we're very appreciative of that. Generally, if we do identify during the course of the audit any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that are required to be reported, they're included in this letter as well. We didn't identify anything that would be required to be reported in this report here. So in terms of estimates, the three most notable estimates in your financial statements are the depreciation on your capital assets, and then there's a pension liability. You all have a plan with TCRS for pension plans. And so there's obviously actuarial calculations and so forth that go into that plan. And then other post-employment benefits, there's a liability there for health insurance for retirees as well. So those are the most significant estimates that are in the financials. In this communication, we have a few tables of adjustments made from the original trial balance. You may see in these tables a reference to PBC entries. Those are entries that you all actually gave to us, not truly audit adjustments themselves. And then there's also some adjustments that are pretty typical and routine that relate to converting from how you all track things internally to the presentation and the financial report that we'll cover tonight. But overall, things were pretty clean on that front. So there's always going to be some entries like this that you'll see, but things were pretty clean. We also have attached to this letter a copy of the representation letter that was signed by the city administrator and by Robert, your finance director. And so that is just here as an attachment, basically sharing that you all had given us answers to the questions we'd asked for, and that you feel the financial statements fairly represent the city as well. So those are the required communications. And I'm going to turn it over to Julie Evans with our office. She's a senior manager with our firm and has worked on the city's audit for a number of years, to give a few observations on the statement. Before I turn it over to Julie, any questions on this communication?
Ken, I don't see anybody. You might be able to see as much as I do. Seems to be no questions here among the 5 of us. I don't see anybody else with their hands up.
Okay, Julie, I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen as well. And for those of you that have a hard copy of the financials, that's where I'm going to go to. There's a lot of information that's contained in your financials, so I'm not going to try to cover a lot of that tonight. I'm just going to show you some of the high points. About 9 pages in starts our audit opinion. This gives a little bit of background on the statements that we're auditing. So we audit your governmental activities, your business type activities, each of your major funds, and the aggregate discretely presented component units and the remaining fund information. So we give about 6 or 7 opinions on your financial statements and the various funds. It is management's responsibility to prepare the financial statements in accordance with GAAP, and then we come in and do that audit. We do the audit under regular accounting standards as well as governmental auditing standards. And as I mentioned earlier in the Finance Committee, we also do what is called a single audit for your federal awards as well. And so we have another opinion that follows that covers that. But the important part is on the top of the next page, which is the opinions, which say that we believe your financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with government accounting standards and accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. This letter or this report also refers to some supplementary information that's required under government auditing standards. There is a management's discussion and analysis on pages 4 through 14, as well as some pension and OPEB actuarial information that's required to be presented in your financials, as well as some other information, which includes some schedules that's required by the Comptroller's Office, as well as your schedule of expenditures of federal awards that's required by the Single Audit Act. Additionally, there's some combining non-major fund statements as well. And this also refers to the report in accordance with governmental auditing standards. So this is what you would call a clean or an unmodified opinion. That's the kind of opinion you want on your financial statements. I'm going to jump to the very back just to kind of hit the highlights. So you've also got a report at the back where I mentioned we go through, let's see, government auditing standards. This is on page 95 of the PDF or page 83 of the hard copy financials. This is the report in accordance with government auditing standards, where we review as part of the audit internal control over your financial reporting process and compliance with certain other laws and regulations, things that are included as part of the state's audit manual. We did not identify anything there that we thought needed to be reported to you all. And then what follows is the report on compliance for each of your major federal programs and internal control over that compliance. And this relates specifically to your federal awards. So because the city receives over $750,000 in federal awards, you fall under this Single Audit Act. So the major program that we reviewed this year was your SAFER Fire Grant Program. We did not identify any issues as part of auditing that program or the controls or compliance over that as well. So all good reports. The next page after that is just the summary of the audit results. This is something that's required by the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, but basically says you have an unmodified report on your financial statements. We didn't identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, as well as over your federal awards. We didn't identify anything that needed to be reported there as well. And it also identifies your major federal program. So your SAFER program is listed there. As I mentioned in the Finance Committee, this last question asks if you qualify as a low-risk auditee. Part of that requirement has to do with having 2 consecutive prior years of single audits. And so in fiscal year 2018, you all did not have federal funding that exceeded that $750,000 threshold. So we're in the second year of those 2 years. So next year, you should qualify as that type of auditee if you're required. So nothing else to report there. I'm going to jump back up to the management's discussion and analysis. I think this is probably the area as alderman that you would want to pay the most attention to if you were looking at the financials. I know there's lots of pages, but this describes some financial highlights and just the makeup of the financials themselves, as well as gives some comparative information year over year that can help you see the direction that the city's going, broken down by governmental activities, your business type activities in total. And then the same for your revenues and expenses there as well. It also gives a little bit of information about the components of your revenue and expenses for your governmental funds, as well as the breakdown of your sources of revenue, some information about the golf course, and then more information about your property and equipment and your debt, as well as some other budget highlights. So that's where, if you all wanted to look, might be the most summarized detail of the financial statements. But I will open it up for any questions if anybody has any specific questions about the financial statements themselves for either Ken or I.
Julie, can you unshare your screen real quick?
Yes, sure.
Then we'll entertain those questions. Alderman Peterson.
I have a question for Julie or Ken. I believe there's 2 findings. Can you explain those to us?
What do you mean?
The findings in the, I believe the.
Let me pull that back up. They're actually last year's findings that were resolved in the current year.
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
So it just says
that
they've been resolved. The comptroller's office requires us to give the status of any previous findings.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Julie and Ken. Thank you again for attending our meeting in finance. I'm sorry I had to give you just like 5 minutes. First question, there were no findings this year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Is this the first year in the years that you've been doing our audits that there were no findings?
I want to say maybe back in 2015 or 16, there might not have been. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I do believe there was a year fairly early on that we did not have any.
Okay, so that's a good thing that there were no findings.
That's a
very good. Okay, we have a wonderful finance director. We had our CA most of the year, so congratulations. The next question is the general fund. In your opinion, what should our general fund be at the very minimum?
Well, I had shared this with Robert earlier, but if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen again. I know you all typically ask this question, and so I've put together kind of a summary.
Yeah, we have a lot of new members of the board tonight, so.
Let me get back to this screen. I know you all had mentioned that in the Finance Committee, and the statistics that I've got on mine may be a little outdated as far as the ranges go. These benchmarks come from a source that we get some training from, and they do a lot of various governmental financials. And so there's three main things I'm going to show you all, but one talks about your unrestricted net position of the city as a whole and where you all are for 2020, 2019, and 2018, just taking the total unrestricted net position. And this would be inclusive of the government as a whole and would include your capital assets and your debt as well. So the general fund is in the next section, but the top one has to do with the city as a whole, unrestricted out of they compare it to total revenue. I know we've looked at it before as total expenses, which are usually about the same, and looked at the number of months, but this would take into effect where you are with that. So that ratio this year was about 17% of unrestricted net position to total revenue for the city as a whole, compared with about 18% last year and 22% back into fiscal year 18. So your citywide unrestricted net position as a percent of your revenue has actually declined the last few years, mostly because the unrestricted numbers stayed the same or fairly comparable at that $10 million number, but your revenues have increased significantly over that time. And so you've not built up unrestricted fund balance during that time, is why these numbers are going down a little bit. And the place where I pulled my statistics from basically was a ranking that it gave about 16 different benchmarks you could use. I picked out the ones that I thought were probably most relevant for you all to focus on, at least for those top three. But it basically ranked everybody as low, average, or good. So you were in good position, you were pretty average, or you were on the low end. And so the 17, 18, 22% is somewhere between low and average for these statistics. It's kind of, for the general fund, the way that computes is your unreserved general fund balance as a percent of your general fund revenue. And so that also includes your transfers as well. So the transfers that the general fund would make to the debt service fund or anything of that nature is reduced in there. That number as a percentage has dropped a little bit as well over the last couple years. So it's about 9%, had been about 11%. And so the statistics they had for that had 0% as being low, 10 as being average, or 30% being good was the number that they used for the general fund.
So the general fund, in order for us to make it because I know it was recommended for that general fund to be about 16%. Would that make it between like $7 and $8 million? Or should we shoot for that goal?
I
do think that sounds about right,
Yeah.
Alderman. I'll do the math here, but I think that.
Okay, because I remember seeing 16.9% or a number like that.
That would get you a little bit higher up towards over the average and a little closer to being in a good position.
Okay.
According to those benchmarks that they had at the time.
Okay. I really wanted to review that because, like I said, we have quite a few new members on our board that this is the first time that they're seeing you present our first audited financial statement. So thank you very much. That's my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Julie, can you remove, there we go, that's what I need. Thank you for reading my mind there. I'm scrolling down here to see if I see anybody else that wishes to speak. I don't see anybody. I don't speak. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I want to ask the question, and it's on the debt. that the city has. In your analysis, you make reference to our debt declining, and I think you tried to draw a connection that has improved our credit rating. Did I read that correct?
I believe that's in the management discussion and analysis. Is that correct, Robert?
I was gonna say, if that's where it is, that is Robert's analysis of.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're drawing I think you're trying to make a connection between our reducing debt and the rating, our improved credit rating. Is that the connection you're making? You said that the city's credit rating has improved, and you highlighted that our debt has decreased, I think, a little over $1.5 million.
I'll take that, Ken, if that's all right.
Okay, yes, thanks, Robert.
Alderman Roberson, we have kept that information in there as sort of an FYI. I wouldn't say those are specifically related to each other so much as it is just good information to know, as far as sort of what Julie was saying earlier about the MD&A. It sort of gives an outlook, gives a general overview of the city, sort of lays the sets the stage a little bit, but it also kind of gives an outlook going forward, and it also tells about what happened throughout the year. I think acknowledging our credit rating and where we are is certainly some information that needs to go in there. I wouldn't say that they're all specifically related, but at the same time, it would be unfair of me to say that everything we do is related to our credit rating, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to kind of get my grip on what type of debt. I mean, in your let's see, in your in the chart that you put up last, the 3-year review of the net financial, I think, the 3-year financial net position. Did you look at the debt of Hendersonville and do any kind of analysis toward good, fair, or poor, like the 3 categories that you did rating on other financial positions?
We did not include that in that synopsis we did this time. I think that they provide, this source we used provides a debt. I think it looks at debt capacity, or how much your debt is in relation to your assets, is a factor. I mean, that's a calculation we could provide to you all. I could go back and pull that information and give it to Robert if he wanted to disperse that out to you all, but we haven't done that as part of tonight's analysis.
Yeah, I would like to see that analysis. And Robert, you may have already done it, but I would like to see that analysis to because I know that debt affects the net financial position of an organization. And so I just want to make sure as we move forward with debt, that it's not going to, that it doesn't exceed our debt ceiling or that category. All right, thank you. That's all.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Ken and Julie, anything else you'd like to add?
I don't have anything specifically.
No.
Well, we appreciate y'all.
Great. Well, thank you. And we appreciate having some time at the meeting tonight.
Sure. Thank you for this presentation. Thank you for what you do for us.
Okay, great.
We have no public hearings. Now I'm going to entertain a motion to approve our minutes of our special call meeting on January 7th, 2021. We have a motion from Alderman Waters and a second from Alderman Robertson. All those in favor of approving our minutes that were presented to you from January 7th, 2021, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Clary.
Aye.
It's unanimous, 13.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Annette. Next, we have approval of meeting minutes from January 12th, our regular meeting, 2021. I'll entertain that motion. We have a motion from Alderman Waters and a second from Alderman Edwards. All those in favor of approving the minutes from our regular meeting on January 12th, 2021, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Clary.
Aye.
Passed unanimously.
Thank you, Annette. That passed unanimously. Jason, that fixed the problem. Thank you. We're on to citizen comments. First speaker is Kimberly Overton of Creekside Court.
Mayor, you're mute.
Muted, Mayor.
You're mute.
Okay, so I just came back on. Okay. Okay, I'm off there. I just came on here. Everybody's going back to their normal color now. Okay. There we go. Alderman Skidmore, if you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up. There we go. So what happened was our microphones here went out, and so I sort of had to turn y'all on for just a second. You still couldn't hear me. Jason had to reset everything. We believe that we're good right now. So we're going to go back to Kimberly Overton of Creekside Court.
Thank you, Mayor. Kimberly Overton, 106 Creekside Court. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for voting for the hybrid option and opening City Hall back up for in-person meetings, which I believe allows for the greatest amount of access to the citizens. Since the election, I continue to be impressed by the decorum of the entire board and the way in which you have seemingly set your differences aside. Sorry, I cannot see with these glasses. Thank you, Kay, but I can't see with them. Sorry. So sorry. Have you seemingly set your differences aside to work together on behalf of those who you have been elected to serve? I'm appreciative of the efforts that you have made to do this, and I know that it isn't always easy. We all have to work with difficult people with whom we may strongly disagree with on any number of issues. However, the importance of doing so in a way that is respectful of one another, your constituents, as well as in a manner that maintains the dignity of the office you hold cannot be overstated. I was pleased to see Alderman Robertson's COO ordinance pass in its first reading in a nearly unanimous vote, and I would urge each of you to please once again vote yes on this tonight, as it has been clearly demonstrated that this is what the majority of Hendersonville citizens want moving forward. Although it is not specifically addressed in the ordinance, I did want to make a comment about the mayor's salary, which was slashed from $100,000 down to $43,000 per year when the CA position was pushed through. The mayor serves as the CEO of the city, and as such, he should be paid accordingly. Alderman Petrelli actually illustrated this point perfectly at the last BOMA meeting when she described the structural hierarchy of our city's government, and I was in complete agreement with her on that point. It is absurd to me that in a corporate environment, anyone would entertain the idea of hiring an employee that would report directly to the mayor and assist them in their duties at a salary that is significantly higher than that of the person who he or she would work beneath in this hierarchy. It doesn't make logical sense to me, and I'm reasonably certain that most people would agree. Whether as an amendment to the CO ordinance or independent of it, I hope to see this issue addressed in the very near future. I'd also like to add that our new board members are doing a fantastic job acclimating to their new roles and helping to move the board forward in a positive direction. Having proudly supported both Alderman Dixon and Alderman Peterson during their campaigns, I am not at all surprised by this. Although I was a supporter of her opponent, I couldn't be more pleased or impressed with the fantastic job that Alderman Collins has done so far. I strongly believe that this dynamic is what is making all the difference and where we are now compared to where we were just a few short months ago. That is all I have for tonight. Thank you for putting up with me and being half blind and not being able to see really well.
You did that better than most of us without our glasses.
Right, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. Thank all of you for your service.
Kimberly, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Matt Campbell of Glen Oak Court West. Jason, are you hearing us okay?
On.
You're good?
All right, my name is Matt Campbell, 107 Glen Oak Court West. I just want to say thank you all for the ones that are here. And I know the ones that couldn't be here is because they had committee meetings that overlapped that wouldn't allow them to be here on time. But I just want to once again say thank y'all for giving us this option to be able to come here and in person. I know I've been complaining about it for a year, so that's one thing y'all won't have to hear me complain about now. I'll have to find something else. But no, seriously, I just also want to thank the new board members, Mr. Peterson, Mrs. Dixon, and Mrs. Collins. Y'all have been taking this role seriously and respectfully and adapting well, as Miss Kimberly said. And I also want to kind of just say what Miss Overton just said is Mr. Roberson has put together the COO, and I hope the first reading went well. I'd like to see the second reading go just as well. I think this is what the city has asked for. I know the city didn't want a CA, but I believe the city everybody is okay and on board with the COO because, I mean, we do need that. So I just want to thank all of y'all for being here. And then also, since I haven't been able to do this publicly, I wanted to thank Marshall Boyd and Trace for the job that they've been doing all over the city to help the water issues and the drainage. I've been wanting to thank them publicly and just now getting the opportunity. So I just want to say thank you to them two gentlemen for working so hard for the city. That's it.
Matt, we always appreciate appreciation. Thank you. Next on our agenda, committee reports, Finance Committee, Chairman Cunningham. You're good.
Okay, sorry, I'm sorry. We had our committee meeting tonight. All members were present. We had a chock full agenda. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to one of the last items on it, but I can read the report on that. Under ordinances, we had ordinance 2020-49, ordinance amending budget ordinance 2020-20 by accepting and appropriating sponsorship funds. That was recommended unanimously. Ordinance 2020-50, and ordinance amending budget ordinance 2020-20 by accepting and appropriating other sponsorship funds. That was also recommended unanimously. Ordinance 2020-52, and ordinance amending budget ordinance 2020-20 by accepting and appropriating a donation to the Mary's Magical Place Maintenance Fund. That was recommended unanimously. Ordinance 2021-01, an ordinance to replace unmarked CID vehicles was recommended unanimously. Ordinance 2021-02, an ordinance amending budget ordinance 2020-20 to appropriate capital project funds in the amount of $5,900,000 was recommended unanimously. Ordinance 2021-03, an ordinance amending budget ordinance 2020-20 by appropriating funds from the general fund reserve account. That was recommended unanimously. Ordinance 2021-04, an ordinance amending budget ordinance 2020-20 by appropriating $543,072.76 from the general fund. Part of that was deferred. It was recommended that two separate ordinance be crafted for two of the items in that ordinance. The part was deferred to the general fund, which was section 2, and the paving, that was another separate ordinance that would remain under 2020-20. I'm sorry, which would remain as 2021-04, was the paving part of it, and that was a neutral recommendation. Under resolutions, resolution 2021-01, a resolution adopting a revised drug and alcohol policy for the city was recommended unanimously. Resolution 2021-02, a resolution to declare equipment owned by the city to be surplus property was recommended unanimously. Resolution 2021-03, a resolution to declare equipment owned by the city to be surplus property was recommended unanimously. Resolution 2021-04, resolution authorizing the transfer of $80,000 from the disposal department hauling tipping fee line item to the Public Works Department professional services line item was recommended unanimously. We had a very short, because we're running out of time, presentation from our craft CPAs for the FY 2020 audit, which you saw more of a detailed explanation here at our BOMA meeting. And we very quickly went over the surplus for our sales tax surplus. And that has, hold on a minute, hold on. I got it. Almost got it. That was year over year. We have some really good news with that. Month over month from last year versus this year was up by $137,998. Year over year cumulative was up increase of $842,532, or an increase of about a little over 12% year over year, which is excellent. And it was over our budgeted item by 4.72% year over year budget. And that is the end of my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Chairman Cunningham, thank you. Chairman Brown, General Committee.
No report. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Chairman Brown. Chairman Campbell, Public Safety Committee.
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Chairman Campbell. Chairman Skidmore, Public Works Committee.
Thank you very much for the opportunity tonight. I just want to say thank you just briefly, and then I'm going to turn it over to Eddie for one report, and then we'll be back. The Public Works, everything will be back in order at our next meeting in February, I hope, and I pray for it. But I do want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart and my family. You all have been amazing, and I think, you know, I was talking to John Bradley the other night, and my mom hadn't really been sleeping a lot, and she just woke up and started talking. And I texted John and said, "Oh my God, prayer does work." And the power of prayer, you know, and I don't want to get on this, and I'll just leave it at this, but it does work. I'm telling you. You know, I'm religious like everybody else. I don't go to church on every time the door's open. I don't do that, you know, on Sunday and Wednesdays. I guess I should. This ought to be a lesson for me that I should do that. But she's in, you know, I didn't know whether she would improve or not, but she is, and we're just doing everything we can to get her motivated. But I just want to sincerely thank you. Even at a time when we were adversarial, even the aldermen have called and texted me, and that really says a lot about you as a person and as your character and your heart. And there was a time in our lives, not you all, but I've experienced the opposite with certain boards, but you all are amazing to me, and each and every one of you. And I just appreciate you all so much more than you'll know. I could go on, but I know you're probably ready to get on with the agenda. But I thank you. The committee we'll get back in line in this next meeting in February. And so at this time, I'm going to yield the floor if you will allow me, Mayor, to Eddie Roberson. He chaired the meeting tonight. I was there, but I felt like incumbent. He and Lee have done such an amazing job too since I've been gone, are just actually away. I have been here. I've been trying to answer phone calls and emails and things like that. Not as good as I should, but I'm getting back on board now, so we shouldn't have that problem. So I promise, Peg, I'll get on those emails when I get them. I've started the whole thing back over again now. I just hadn't had time. So anyway, with Eddie, if it's okay, I'll just give him the floor now. Thank you all very much. I love you all.
Thank you. I think I want to add one more title so there's Alderman Skidmore, there's Chairman Skidmore, and after this beautiful discussion of the power of prayer, I think I can refer to him now as Reverend Skidmore.
Thank you very much.
But we have been praying for your mother, and she gave so many years of service to the city. So thank you. Thank you, Chairman Skidmore, for that. Today, this afternoon, the Public Works Committee discussed several items. I'm not going to bore you with a big discussion of those, but I'm going to highlight just a few of them. And Mayor, if it be the will of the board, I would be willing to do a brief report in writing on each of the 15 items that we discussed, if that would help expedite things. But I do want to mention a few. Number one is Public Works Department, and they're doing a great job, informed us that the FEMA Savely Court project is underway. One home has been purchased under the flood insurance payments, and 4 more are to go. Mr. Hudson has appeared before us many times in the past, and his home has been closed. So we are making progress there. We talked about the ordinance on paving that the mayor has recommended, and the Public Works Committee unanimously supports the additional sales tax revenue going for additional paving. All of us have paving projects in our wards that we would like to see done, and so Public Works supports if there are excess funds, revenue, that it go toward paving. We talked about the trash collection update. Things are going well there. Public Works Department, and I think Mr. Bradley, are in the middle of working out a document, an agreement, so that it is memorialized, so we can hold Waste Pro's feet to the fire. We'll have a written document on that. We talked about stormwater ordinance edits. This is a subject that we have dealt with for as long as I've been on the board. There will be a action for the board at the next meeting on stormwater ordinance edits. The state has informed us twice that there are deficiencies, there are problems with our ordinance, and our staff has worked hard on improving those deficiencies. Also, part of that will be the creation of a new citizens stormwater review board made up of citizens that can hear appeals and can act on these issues as they come up. So I'm real excited about that. We talked about a couple of safety reviews. Cages Bend Road, their staff, Sarah Locke, has done a safety review audit on Cages Bend and also Caudell Drive in Winston Hills Parkway. So those are just a few of the things that we discussed tonight. And so I think that those are the relevant ones that I would like to bring up. Thank you, Mayor.
Vice Chairman Robertson, thank you. Chairman Skidmore, thank you. Next, we're going to go to our city administrator report. David Marr.
Thank you, Mayor and board.
got just a little bit of a laundry list here. Running down through the departments, fire department getting the second vaccines right now. Probably 40% of the fire department opted to get the first vaccine and will be receiving the second one this week probably. Police department calls are down 586 last week. Domestics are down from 13 to 8, which is good. PD's running about 40 to 50% on the vaccines also. And it's not mandatory that the police take them. It's voluntary. So we have about 50% of the police and fire that are taking the vaccines at this point. Let's see, Public Works, we talked a little bit about the bank being torn down finally at the intersection of Walton Ferry Road. That's great news. I think Timothy said today that was just bad planning 50 years ago on the city's part, kind of joking about the intersection up there. Codes Department, Greg and his staff back there doing somewhere between 40 and 50 inspections a day, getting numerous plans, a lot of building going on in Hendersonville, as you know. Planning, they've got a lot of activity back there with subdivisions and structures. Timothy's working with Andy down there with the trees on the tower and getting that landscape straightened out. It looks really good down there. Finance Department, let's see, y'all talk about the closing date for the loan, 5.9 million. They got 1099s out to the employees. IT and HR are working together, trying to get policies and procedures and working through a lot of issues with, as you see tonight, getting the hybrid up. That's a great deal with that they've gotten going here, and I appreciate Jason and Mary Beth and Tina and that staff. Parks Department, you saw Andy's email last night. Still a lot of good stuff going on there. Cell tower and nearing operation with AT&T. We processed further security cameras for Drakes Creek and Drakes Creek and Volunteer Park. RFQ for the master plan will be open Thursday at 10 o'clock. The RFP for the inline hockey will be open February the 4th at 10 o'clock. All spring leagues are planning to start up with the continued COVID restrictions and so on and so forth. So you can see the departments are a lot of things going on, a lot of day-to-day activity. And that's the one thing that you, as a board, asked me to do. You charged me when you hired me back in December 10th of 2019. You charged me with running the day-to-day operations for the city. So with that being said, I got a couple of more comments and I will end. If right now there's a lot of reclassification talk in the city. I know that Alderman Robeson and I had a brief discussion in the Public Works Committee tonight. And with the COVID and with everybody getting paid full pay, nobody being laid off and full benefits and vacation days and insurance and things like that, there are a lot of good people in the city. And I'm not going to mention anybody by name, but there's a lot of people that feel like they need to be reclassified right now. A lot of people that do need to be reclassified. So I don't have an issue with the reclassifications. I just think the timing right now is really not the best because of the budget and the shape it's in. We're halfway through the budget year. We may want to catch those during the next budget cycle. One of the suggestions I'm going to make to the alderman moving forward, and I probably will not be in this chair when this happens, but I would like to make a suggestion, and if y'all will make note of it, look at doing a citywide pay study. I think when it was done about 3 years ago, but the city's changed a lot in 3 years, as you know, and I think the city may want to revisit the reclassification plan along with the pay study, and that may get some equity in some of these things. We have a couple department heads that are way out of whack, that aren't making what they need to make. We have a lot of second and third line people that aren't making what they need to be making compared to the private sector and or other departments. So I think there's a long-term solution here. I don't want to band-aid by just picking and choosing one or two people, but I do think there's some need for reclassifications. But I think Chris and his staff back there, along with the pay consultants, can do a good job with that. So I just want to make a comment about that. Alderman, if you don't mind, I have no qualms whatsoever with you contacting the employees, department heads or staff. I have no issues with that whatsoever. Would you do me a favor? Just copy me on the emails that you send them so that we all can make sure we're on the same page. I've got a couple of things that have happened in the last couple of weeks that I wasn't aware of until after they were going on. And again, it's not a huge debacle, but it is. I'd like to be involved in the day-to-day with the staff and yourself. I mean, I want to make sure that we're all doing this. The other reason for this too is if you contact a staff member and 3 weeks go by and you don't hear from them, and then you call me and say, hey, listen, I haven't heard from John Doe and I emailed him 3 weeks ago. If I'm not on the email, I don't know about it. So please just copy me on it. And if the staff can handle the situation, that's great. Again, we have a good staff and so on. Last comment I'm going to make, the paving ordinance, I don't necessarily have a problem with paving in the city. We got a lot of roads that need paving. I think we all agree to that. Didn't really have a lot of input from the beginning. But as a city administrator, while I'm in this chair, I'm going to do the best job I can, do it 110%. And my opinion right now is the general fund, we need to leave it alone for a couple more months. Go ahead and continue to pay with the money we have, and then revisit that in 2 or 3 months or 4 months as we spend more money in the paving. I just think our general fund balance is low enough right now. We're halfway through this budget year. COVID is still around. That hasn't gone away yet. And so I just don't want to jump the gun and spend $500,000. We may need it down the road if this new COVID comes back and things happen. So along with that, again, I'll follow back around with what I said earlier. You charge me to run the day-to-day operations of the city. I'm doing the best I can with this staff. And again, between the mayor, the board of ed aldermen, the staff, everything's coming together and they're all doing a great job. And I appreciate the continued loyalty. So with that, I'll entertain any questions if anybody has anything.
We don't have anybody here wishing to ask questions. I don't see anybody with their hand up via Zoom. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'd just like to say thank you, Dave, for your work with Robert on getting our budget last year in line with the COVID virus and everything, and the good report we received tonight. I thought now would be the proper time to thank you for that, and the work that Robert and yourself did with the department heads and other aldermen to help get our budget in order and to put us in a position to be able to talk about an additional $500,000 to spend. So thank you very much. That's what I had to say. Thank you, sir.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Hayes.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much, Dave Lamar. You have done a wonderful job. Appreciate during the middle of a pandemic, helping pull our entire city employees, almost 400 employees. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hayes. Next, we have a consent agenda, which are items.
Mayor,
Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Petrell.
I'm so sorry. I don't have the option to put my little blue hand up. I'm sure I've done something that has removed it, so I apologize. But I just wanted to thank Dave for your work over this last year. This has been a unique year for all of us, and I greatly appreciate everything that you have done in conjunction with the mayor, our directors, our city staff, and our city. I really feel that some things are just meant to be. And I think for sure this year, all of us have needed a little bit more help, and you have executed that in just such a fantastic way. And we just could not have done this without you. So thank you for your dedication and your service to our city.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you very much, board.
Alderman Petrelli, thank you. Dave, thank you so much for your report. Next, we have a consent agenda, and that includes items A, B, C, D, and E of your agenda. Without objection, we're going to group these. This is the way that it was presented to you in the agenda that you received a couple days ago. If anybody would like to pull out an item, please let me know now. Otherwise, I'm going to read the captions of them, and we're going to vote on all those as a group. Alderman Brown.
I want to vote on those as a group, but I do want to echo what Ms. Petrelli said. I can't put my little blue hand up either. And as we go along here, there's going to be a couple of things I want to speak on, and you're going to have a hard time keeping everybody in the queue and where we need to be. So,
Hey, Tina, feel free to speak and help us to solve this.
Actually, sir, I got an
Thanks,
email from Alderman Roberson earlier the evening. He had the exact same issue, and I had emailed him back. Alderman Roberson, did that fix that for you?
Hold on. Here you go.
Well, I had already gotten off Zoom, headed this way, but I was having the same trouble that other aldermen are having, with the little hand, couldn't raise it.
Yeah, I'm really not sure exactly what it's caused by. It could just be an update in Zoom. I'm really not sure.
There are some people that have. Alderman Cunningham has hit it a couple times, and that seems to have worked. Alderman Cunningham, do you want to tell us what your magic is?
Well, now I'm on a small screen, so I can't see everybody. Well, now I don't know what it is anymore because I don't know.
Wave your hands wildly. Alderman Collins,
I
how'd you do that?
think I messed something up.
Alderman Collins, you're muted, but we want to hear you. Alderman Campbell, you.
I have a blue hand, but no, but I can't unmute myself. Do you guys have the participant list on the right-hand side,
Exactly.
but no blue hand?
Yeah, the little blue hand is all the way on the bottom.
Okay. So Alderman Collins, you clicked on participant and then scrolled down to the bottom. Is that what you did?
Yes, it's at the bottom of participants.
Okay.
Right to the right of stop video. Just right over to the right of it. It's just participants 26. Click it. Then you go up there and it says raise hand. You click it. Blue hand. It pops up.
Yeah, mine's not there this time.
Do you have the participant list on the right-hand side of your screen?
Yep.
I don't know.
That's all I got for you. Sorry.
Wave wildly.
Yes, that'll work. We'll call you out.
One more thing for me to have to look at. Alderman Bush, excuse me, Chief Bush.
So to back up what they're saying, to the right of participants is three little dots that says more. If you have those dots, click on those dots and you should be able to raise your hand. It should list it underneath that. I'm on an iPad. In the top right screen to the right of participants is three little dots with more written underneath it. You click on those and it should say lower hand, raise hand, chat. Gives you meeting settings, minimize meeting, virtual background.
Oh, shoot.
Not showing that, Scotty.
My only option is to rename.
Don't rename and just wave wildly, I guess. I'll try to pay attention to that. One more thing to look for. I appreciate that. Did anybody want to remove an item from the consent agenda? So we're going to vote on second reading of ordinance 2020-49. This is an ordinance amending budget ordinance 2020-20 by accepting and appropriating sponsorship funds. We're going to vote on second reading of ordinance 2020-50 and ordinance amending budget ordinance 2020-20 by accepting and appropriating additional sponsorship funds. We are going to vote on reading of resolution 2020-01, a resolution, 2021-01, a resolution adopting a revised drug and alcohol policy for the city of Hendersonville and repealing resolution 2008-13. We're going to vote on resolution 2021-02, a resolution to declare equipment owned by the city to be surplus property and directing the disposal of that property. We're going to vote on resolution 2021-03. It's a resolution to declare equipment, turnout gear, owned by the city to be surplus property and directing disposal of that property. I entertain a motion. We have a motion from Alderman Waters and a second from Alderman Edwards. Nobody's waving here. Nobody's waving wildly on the screen in front of me. I don't see any blue hands, yellow hands. Alderman Collins, you just pushed your hair back and that's very deceiving. It looks like you're raising your hand. All those in favor of accepting the 5 items on the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon, aye. Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
All 4.
Those
Unanimous.
5 items pass unanimously. Thank you, Annette. Next on the agenda, we have second reading of ordinance 2020-53. This is an ordinance creating the position of Chief of Operations and setting forth the qualifications, duty, and salary of the position. Alderman Robertson.
So moved.
We have a motion from Alderman Robertson, a second from Alderman Waters. I sent out ahead of time a couple amendments that I was going to make for y'all. Keep in mind, this passed first reading with 12 votes for it. I think in a previous life, going back a couple months, I would have been happy with 12 votes and just left it alone and not try to tweak anything. But there were several people that made some comments 2 weeks ago that were worthwhile. I didn't really feel at the time that we needed to change the ordinance. I mean, heck, it got 12 votes, but several people on here made some comments and asked if we could make a couple small tweaks, and I think those are reasonable. I said this 2 weeks ago, as I feel like I've compromised an awful lot on this, and there's parts of this that I don't like. I feel like the amendments we have here aren't necessarily compromising anymore. I feel like what we're doing here is we are making it even better. And from listening to the comments that we had 2 weeks ago, and listening to and going back and listening and looking at the minutes as well, I feel like those comments are valid. And so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to make that motion. I need you to hold on right now, though. We've got somebody. Gresh, who are you?
Yes, real estate broker for Kevin Newellberg Holdings.
Okay, hold on. You might be in the wrong meeting. Are you supposed to be on the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, do you know what item you're going to be speaking on?
Item G. The rezoning.
Okay. Tina, can you mute him or put him back in the waiting room? Gresh, I'm sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you.
You're fine. I will make sure to get back to you here in a few minutes. So my first amendment that I'm going to make, and it's you should see it, and you've got a copy of that. It's going to be 3 parts. The first part is in section 2, paragraph 5. And this is something that came to us from Alderman Cunningham. She suggested that we replace the words private sector with business. That's going to be the first part of my amendment. The second part, this is something that came from Alderman Cunningham and Alderman Collins. We're going to add to the end of section 2, paragraph 4, a whole new sentence. While membership in ICMA is not a requirement for employment, the board encourages the COO to consider joining upon employment. The third item in amendment number 1, and this is something else that also came from Alderman Collins, at section 3, paragraph 5. We're going to replace the entire paragraph with these words. Be responsible for purchasing by acting as the final staff approval on all purchases, and in parentheses, other than final approval, all other duties and authority related to purchasing may be delegated as seen fit. So I'll also move on those 3 parts of my first amendment.
So moved.
We have a second from Alderman Waters. Alderman Edwards, do you wish to speak on this?
I do not. So those 3 were the ICMA.
Let's see. Hold on one second. Okay, we're good. Go ahead.
Okay, so can you just briefly,
Sure.
The 3 were the
Changing private sector to business, encouraging ICMA membership, and then clarifying a little bit what the CEO's responsibilities would be for purchases.
Okay, yeah, but I just don't have I don't have it in writing in front of me. That's why I wanted to specify. So I don't have anything.
Okay, appreciate that. I'm looking for people waving wildly. Oh, Alderman Cunningham.
I did not wave wildly. Thank you, Mayor. What section is the purchasing? Which is section 2?
Section 3, paragraph 5. We're going to replace that entire paragraph.
Section 3.
Paragraph 5.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I was trying to follow you, but you were speaking kind of fast. Okay. I got it. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that. I thank you for suggestions last week.
Mayor?
Yes, Alderman Petrelli.
Sorry. Okay, so with this amendment, you're saying that the COO would also be the full-time purchasing agent?
It's really no different than what was in the text last week. It's just clarifying a little bit from a suggestion from Alderman Collins. Basically, it's saying they'll be the full-time purchasing agent. However, they still have the opportunity to delegate some responsibilities of purchasing to staff. We wanted to make sure that was clear. Alderman Collins, you want to speak on that? I'll come back to you, Alderman Petrelli.
Yes, last week it said that they were the purchasing agent, which is like a full-time person who issues RFPs and reviews bids. And now it's just saying that they give the final approval before payment is made, but that they're not responsible for the minutia, or, well, that's not minutia, but for actually executing all aspects of purchasing as a purchasing agent typically would be. It's just a final approval so that they're accountable for purchases. not for the executing of the purchase.
So who's going to handle the RFPs? Will it be the director per department, like?
Just
you know?
as it currently is.
Okay, so then they're just going to have final say over what regarding the RFP?
Currently, Mr. Lamar, like there's a process where it goes from finance, Mr. Lamar approves it, then finance issues a check, and then Mayor Clary signs the check. So it just makes sure that they're still a part of that check and balance.
And then delegate purchasing to whom?
Whomever it's appropriate. So maybe within the department that needs the item, because we don't have a purchasing agent who's negotiating contracts or anything like that for us citywide.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Petrelli. Anybody else on this proposed amendment? Annette, I made the motion on that. Alderman Waters seconded that. Am I correct on that?
That is correct.
All those in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
You're muted.
I'm trying to unmute.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson, Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
It was unanimous.
Passed unanimously. Thank you, Annette. The next proposed amendment I have is under section 2, paragraph 10. We talked a little bit about this 2 weeks ago, removing that item. And the purpose of that is, as Alderman Edwards suggested, was that we have, this is a different position than a department head. What we're doing is removing that person's opportunity to appeal. And as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, when it comes to discipline and to possible firing, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I don't know anywhere else in government where that's the case in any department in the state, anywhere in federal government, that the chief of staff pretty much works at the pleasure of the head of that department or the head of that government agency, be it the governor, be it other mayors, be it the president. I happen to know the chief of staff for the city of Nashville previous to the current one. She was let go, and she understood that as one of the conditions of her employment. She did not have the opportunity to appeal. It's very common, and I cannot think of another situation where paragraph 10 applies. So my amendment is to remove paragraph 10, and I so move.
I'll second that.
A second from Alderman Edwards.
I'll speak on that briefly, Mayor.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead, Alderman Edwards.
I mean, I support this. It's not a huge, I mean, I'm not going to lose sleep if this doesn't pass, but I think it just offers more accountability to the mayor. If this person messes up, that's a direct reflection on the mayor. So that's my position, and I hope it passes, but I mean, like I said, I won't lose sleep over it.
Alderman Edwards, thank you. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question I have would be, what if this person is approached by the mayor, whoever the mayor may be 10 years from now, to do something unethical, and they call him out on it or her out on it? What if that, causes some friction and they get fired for pointing out unethical issues or issues that really should not even be a discussion for what they should be doing in their job? I mean, unfortunately, things like this happen in communities and businesses and across the gamut. So I realize it's a position that answers to the mayor. They should have some form of protection if it's something that sometimes I just think that there's some issues that could go to the level of they need to be protected. What I'm saying. So I like to think that they could ask to go to a employment review committee or something along those lines to protect themselves without having to go hire an attorney and sue the city. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I supported the ordinance as a whole last time because it included this particular article, number 10. I believe that it's fair. I believe it's not fair to single out just one employee in the whole city, that they would have no appeal process in place. And I believe in checks and balances. I think if you as a mayor make your case, a legitimate case, if that person is terminated, I think that the board would legitimately go along with you. But to have it wide open and just completely eliminate something like that as an appeal process is, this would be a deal breaker for me. If this is eliminated in this ordinance, this would be a deal breaker for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Dixon.
Sorry. I just want to speak to what Alderman Campbell had mentioned. And, you know, we do still have HR policies in place to protect this person. We have a code of conduct in place, right? I've given this a lot of thought the last couple weeks and did some investigation myself. I'm kind of still on the fence, but I can see where this is a very important position with a lot of weight and needed accountability. So I think that our current policies and processes in our HR department would be enough to protect this employee from a unethical situation. That's all I have, Mayor.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Alderman Brown.
Trying to get there. There I am. Thanks, Mayor. I felt 2 weeks ago that this was good to leave this in like we have it now, and I still feel the same. Just because I think due process is something that everybody should have an opportunity to have. And I've been on, Ms. Dixon, I've been on the fence about it a little bit too. I've been on the fence about a lot of stuff. You know, I spent 3.5 years talking about the city administrator. I was actually 4.5 years. Mayor Foster brought it up and wasn't on board with it for a long time. And then I became on board with it. And I'll frankly tell you all at this point, and I think most of you know, that I still believe the city administrator is good for our city. However, we are at the point where that ship has sailed, and there's been a compromise put on the table. And quite frankly, if you look at the city administrator's job description and the COO's job description, you could put them both in a hat, pull them out, you wouldn't see a whole lot of difference in them. So we're still getting that. The basic difference here is that the COO answers to the mayor and is not to the board. But I hope there would be some accountability there all the way around. But that being said, there's not a whole lot of change there. If the city administrator, if we go back to that and we would terminate that person, I believe that would take 7 votes of the board. And they would have still had due process through that board before that would have happened. So I think there has to be some trust in here too, you know, on the mayor's part and working with his board and working with the COO. We're kind of feeling our way through a lot of this. There's 3 cities in the state of Tennessee that has chief operating officers. We're probably going to be the 4th city. So we will also be the smallest city and the smallest government doing that. So we're kind of paddling new water. We've never been down this way before, and I really feel that leaving that in there will help us and Mayor, help you hire a better employee. If they know they have an opportunity, if they feel they're wronged, to express that. And I don't remember who said it a minute ago, if they've totally breached your accountability and done things that are wrong for the city and you terminate that person, I certainly will stand behind you. If that person is asked to do something illegal, immoral, or unethical, and they're terminated by the mayor, whether it be you or the mayor 4 years from now, I would certainly listen to that person's grievance. I would think it would be good business to do that. So I'm going to stick to where I was on this 2 weeks ago, simply because those facts. But and you know, the more I think about it, if I was going to come to work here, I would feel better about that clause being in there, as everyone else in the city has a due process if we terminate anybody. So I won't vote for the amendment, and those are my reasons why. Thank you.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate the discussion. There are legitimate reasons why we disagree. It's hard to state that you're against repeal rights. Repeal rights is something that is baked fundamentally in our jurisprudence. And so it is hard to come out against, you know, this person should not, or this person should have repeal rights. But what I'm looking at more practical application of this. And I'm afraid that, and my original ordinance did have this in, this appeal right. But after reflecting and after listening and after thinking of my own history in state government, I feel that that if we leave this in, that there will be an inherent source of conflict potentially between the mayor and the COO. And I think that's a recipe for dysfunction. When I worked with the state, I had to dismiss our general counsel for cause. I dismissed that general counsel. That general counsel did not have the ability to appeal my dismissal of her to the legislative branch. So I think there are some functions within the executive branch and some functions within the legislative branch that are appropriate. And I feel that the legislative branch needs to be very careful. While we have an important responsibility for checks and balances, I think the legislative branch, which I am a member of, we are a member of, has to be very careful in overextending our authority where that it would make it difficult for the proper functioning of the executive branch. So with that, I have had a change of mind. I believe that this is an improvement in the practical application of this new position. You know, if there is an abuse of power by the mayor, this legislative branch, BOMA, always has the recourse as allowed by law to take action, which includes up to going back to the city administrator. So I am in favor of allowing the executive branch, the mayor, to have a certain amount of flexibility to make this work. If it doesn't work, we can always come back and address it through additional legislation if there is an abuse of power. So for that, those theoretical and practical applications and justifications, I will support this amendment. Thank you.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Collins.
I want to say that I was recently asked what changed my mind that I no longer supported the city administrator. I do still think that the city administrator is the best way for us to go, but I understand and realize that it's not practical. It's not going to happen, and it's just not an option on the table right now. So for me, this ordinance definitely is a compromise. The things I like about a city administrator, I think are fairly well preserved in the ordinance as it stands as of now. We are getting professional management. However, I'm not happy with the qualifications, but I have let that go, kind of. I'm not offering an amendment to change it. I like the city administrator theory because of it helps to remove politics. For me, removing the ability for this person to be able to appeal a termination does not remove politics. It makes that person more distinctly an agent of the elected mayor who is a politician. It really diminishes this role of COO in my estimation. And, we talk all the time about taking politics out of paving. If you think that the efficiency of our department heads and our departments themselves are not impacted by politics, that's crazy to me. They're absolutely less efficient because of the political interference. And I seek to minimize that. If we did, I feel like this board has shown a willingness to work with this mayor. And I hope that just as I believe that we trust the mayor to bring us a person who is well exceeds the minimum qualifications in this ordinance, I would hope that, Mr. Mayor, you could trust us to not override a reasonable termination. But future mayors and future boards, we don't know. Eliminating this clause diminishes the impact of the COO to the extent that I don't feel comfortable supporting it. The salary, the combination of salaries, we have no evidence or data to support the value of this position. I don't want a chief of staff that is a political operative. And while I don't think that would happen in this administration, it could in the future. And I will, if we remove this, I will not be able to support the ordinance. Thank you.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for our city attorney and maybe for HR. John, if we delete this section out of the ordinance, what kind of appeal process or what kind of process would that person have to appeal or to, what would happen? What would that person's options be?
Well, as currently set forth, if this protection is removed, there'd be no option for any recourse within the city. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen would not be involved in it, which is what the mayor pointed out. It would be his decision and a political decision. That's what you would call it. It would not be subject to review by the board. However, if it was for an illegal reason, there are certain protections provided by state law. For example, we have the whistleblower statute and various things, the Public Employees Protection Act. So there are some things, if there was something really outrageous done to this employee, there are some protections that go beyond this board. They're in court. They're not something we could do in-house, but they would have certain legal recourse. And of course, if they were fired for any sort of discriminatory purpose, they would always have the right to pursue a lawsuit against the city to try to regain their job or damages from the employment income that they lost.
And do we have that right now built into our HR policies and procedures?
What we have now for our department heads is the ability to appeal to the Management Review Committee, which then ultimately can be appealed to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. What this amendment does, as I understand it, would take that appeal right within the board to the board. It would take that right away from this individual. The department heads have that right, but this individual would not have the right to challenge before the board the action of the mayor. And I think the mayor would agree that's what this amendment does.
Okay, what about, we have a personnel board. What would the function of a personnel board be?
They would have no involvement in this because this would be a mayoral assistant that would certainly be excluded from our personnel ordinance. Just like our department heads have no remedies before our personnel board. The personnel board provides protection for members of what's called the classified service, which is basically everyone in the city below a department head level. A couple of exceptions, but that's basically it.
Okay, so let me understand. Unless it was a grievous attempt or like something illegal that person would, refuse to do, they would really have no recourse at that point.
Well, it's more than illegal things. It's hard to say all the things that the law protects. For example, I'll just give you another example. If this person got hurt at work and filed a workers' comp claim against the city, and the mayor decided that was the reason to fire the person, judicially, the courts have determined in Tennessee that that's actionable. They'd be able to sue to get their job back. So, and age discrimination is protected, sex discrimination is protected, race discrimination. There are lots of laws that provide protection. It all depends on the reason for the termination. But as long as it was a legal reason, for example, the mayor just says, I would prefer to have someone else working with me, there would probably be no recourse.
Okay. All right. That's what I needed to know. Mayor, I really wish you would reconsider this because I would be on board with this ordinance. And I think that the majority of the board would be, maybe unanimously. I truly wish that you would reconsider this. Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Alderman Hayes.
Thank you, Mayor. Amen to everything that Alderman Collins just said about the politics, taking the politics out. Over the last couple of weeks, I've given this a lot of thought, and I could go either way, but I really believe that since this is your pick, Mayor, so it's the pick of the mayor, that you're going to be able to get along well with this person, and you're going to be able to bond. And something that Ms. Cunningham said 2 weeks ago is, I want this position to be extremely successful. I mean, we all want that. We've made some compromises, but once this hire is made, I can promise you they're going to have my 100% commitment to success. And I believe the whole board feels that way because we love our city and we want our city to do well. So even a rank and file employee has the ability to appeal a termination. So hopefully none of that would ever happen. But last but not least, what Alderman Brown said, I think it'll actually help in the hiring. This is probably going to be somebody local. It's probably going to be somebody, they know they don't have a long, lengthy contract. I feel like it'll give them a little bit more assurance that they belong and that we are going to try to do everything we can to use their skills and talents, but support them. So that's the bottom line for me. I feel like I can support this person that much better if we don't go with this amendment. I'd like them to have some type of ability to appeal. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. I've got a show appreciation to Alderman Robertson, Alderman Edwards for some comments earlier. I very much agree with what they said is that the function of the board of mayor and alderman is legislative. It really is not administrative. And this person is going to be a reflection of the mayor who is elected and needs to reflect that. It should not be a reflection of a legislative body. It should be the reflection of the chief executive of the city. If that person doesn't perform, the mayor should be allowed to go find somebody else that is a better reflection for the person who's been elected the CEO of the city. Alderman Edwards.
Okay, thank you. This question is for our city attorney. Now, you had mentioned the personnel board. What rights does an employee have underneath that's not a department head to appeal within to the personnel board?
Well, initially they have a departmental hearing if there's some disciplinary action being taken. And at the end of the departmental hearing, if they're unhappy with the discipline that's meted, whether it's a suspension or termination or reprimand or whatever, they have the right to appeal an adverse disciplinary action to the personnel board. And the personnel board would then be able to reverse the action of the department head in the discipline.
That's the way our current personnel policies exist.
So, okay, so I guess this would not, there's no way to include this CEO under the, to have the rights under the personnel board, right? I mean, this person would have, with
Right.
the proposed amendment, they would have no appeal rights to the personnel board or anything, right?
That's correct. I mean, you could give your department heads and the chief of operations, you could have all of them have the right to go to the personnel board. It's just, that's not the way it's set up now. For many years, we've had it where it was only members of the classified service that had the protection of the personnel board. So it would be a pretty big change, but sir, it's up to the board. The board could do that if you wanted to change those ordinances.
Okay, now this question may be to Alderman Robertson and or the mayor. Now this, assuming this passes, do y'all intend to propose a contract for the chief of operations, or will it be an at-will employee?
I didn't anticipate a contract at all. Alderman Robertson, I don't think that was his. Go ahead.
I wouldn't anticipate a contract. I think the governor, when he hires the deputy governor, he doesn't give the deputy governor a contract. So I would think this would be an at-will employee.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I'll stand by. I'll probably open this up because I made the original motion, and that was at the last meeting. I mean, and practically speaking, if this person is supposed to be an extension of the mayor and run the day-to-day operations and be accountable to the mayor, and if the mayor does not want this person, I mean, far be it from us to force them. If say this proposed amendment does not pass, and the mayor fires the chief of operations and appeals to BOMA, are we going to reverse the mayor and say, no, mayor, you're going to have to get along and work with this person? Practically speaking, I just don't see that working out real well. And this may not even come up if the mayor does not want, or if the mayor cannot work well with this chief of operations. I do not see a chief of operations wanting to appeal and wanting to stay in that position. So I think this is much ado about nothing. And this is kind of, I've been in the private sector my entire adult life. I don't, I mean, the right to appeal is really unique to government employees. In the private sector, if someone's an at-will employee, assuming they don't have a contract and assuming that they're not being terminated they're not in a protected class or being terminated for illegal reasons, they are terminated immediately and they can be gone within 10 minutes. And there is absolutely no appeal rights in the private sector. There may be some legal recourse. So this concept of appeal rights is kind of foreign to me. And the department heads do have the appeal rights to us, but and I think I said this at the last meeting, that they have this right to appeal our employees have the personnel board to appeal to, because really they should be more insulated from politics. This position, the chief of operations, is inherently a political position, because it is the person will be hired by the mayor, chosen by the mayor, and approved by us, but it will be more of a political position than the city administrator. So I can understand why department heads would have that appeal right, because they should be more insulated from politics. So I respect my colleagues that disagree with me, and I do appreciate this constructive dialogue, and that nobody's gotten too upset. But I'll just have to I would have to support this amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Edwards. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Petrelli is wanting to raise her blue hand. Since she doesn't have one, she sent me a message and said, "Hey, I'm raising my hand. Would you please let them know?" Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Petrelli, sorry about that.
Thank you, Chairman Campbell and Mayor Clary. So I do appreciate the comments and the dialogue that we've had on this particular amendment. We have been in this position before. Not, obviously, we don't have a COO position. This is going to be unique to our city, and there are 4 other cities that have either the COO or chief of staff position, 2 and 2. But my concern when I'm making my decisions is always what is in the best interest of the city, the future of the city, the best use of taxpayers' dollars. So with the situation that we had a couple of years ago, because of that due process, I feel that even though it was uncomfortable for all of us, I feel in the end that due process actually protected the city from potential litigation. It still costs taxpayer dollars, but I think ultimately, because of the parameters, that protected the city. So I would ask Attorney Bradley, what do you think best protects the city? I don't know if John can hear me. He's not responding. There you are.
Yeah, I can hear you.
What best protects the city, having the process for this person or not having the process?
Well, I think, because we're government, you typically have some sort of due process, but not so much with political positions. And I think that we have set forth that this would be a political position. So, I don't see that there would be a lot of exposure for the city as long as they weren't fired for an illegal reason. If they were fired for an illegal reason, they're going to have recourse anyway in the courts. And certain administrative agencies such as the Tennessee Human Rights Commission and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. So there are some. I don't think that from a city point of view, it makes a great deal of difference. If we're going to be sued because this person's terminated, I think we would be sued whether there was a right to appeal to the board or not. I mean, either way, the person could sue if they felt that they wanted to.
Okay. Well, I've heard a couple of different comments that are very good that, especially from Mayor Clary, or I think Mayor Clary said it, or maybe Alderman Edwards said it, that this position would be an extension of the mayor. And that, that does make sense. I think with all the emails that we have gotten, we do have to recognize that this person was not elected, no matter what the intention of the position is. There is still this additional layer where this person has not been elected by the people. I don't have an issue with the due process, and I completely understand if the mayor, once he hires this person and it's like, okay, this person is not, taking my vision or taking my direction, I can see where that would be an issue. But if you take corrective action with them and say, hey, this is not what we discussed, I'm whatever, giving you a warning. It just seems like unless you already have somebody in mind who you're going to hire, but it does seem that it would kind of limit your pool of applicants. It's but I think it just shows due diligence that we would afford this opportunity to that position, because if something egregious is going on, Mayor Clary, we're going to back you on that. But anyway, thank you, and thanks for waving for me, Pat.
Thank you, Alderman Petrelli. I don't see anybody else waving. I don't see anybody else lit up. I don't see anybody else, Nick. Alderman Campbell, you just scratched your face. Okay. Alderman Dixon, did you want to speak?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of Amendment 2, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Can you repeat the motion?
Sure. The motion is to eliminate paragraph 10 under section 2. Go ahead, Annette.
Brown,
No.
Campbell,
No.
Collins,
No.
Cunningham,
No.
Dixon,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Hayes,
No.
Peterson,
No.
Petrelli,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Skidmore,
Yes.
Waters,
Yes.
and Clary.
Yes.
Okay. That's 7-4, 6 against.
A passive majority vote. Thank you, Annette. I need to hold on 1 second. Jason, you seem like you're trying to tell me something. Okay, we're good. The next amendment, y'all should have gotten a copy of also. And this is on section 2, paragraph 11. This will replace the entire paragraph. I'll make a motion, then I want to come back and explain a little bit about it. We replaced the entire paragraph, and this came from suggestions from Alderman Campbell, Alderman Edwards, and Alderman Cunningham. If the position of Chief of Operations becomes vacant, the mayor is to appoint a current Hendersonville department head to serve as acting Chief of Operations. That person will step down upon the board's confirmation of a person to serve as the permanent Chief of Operations, as outlined in section 2, paragraph 2. The mayor will submit a person for the position for the board's approval within 60 days of the position being vacated. I so move. A motion and a second from Alderman Waters. This is more restrictive than what we did. This is more restrictive on the mayor than what we did 2 weeks ago. I struggle with this one. I don't think there should be any restrictions on.
Mayor Clary, I am so sorry to interrupt you. I would like to change my vote on that last vote. I got confused with the motion. I'm so sorry. I know that's disruptive, but I'm so sorry.
Annette, will you call the roll again, please, to vote on that item, which was the proposal to eliminate paragraph 10. We'll all vote again. And Annette, I'll vote aye.
Annette, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry. Brown,
No.
Campbell,
No.
Collins,
No.
Cunningham,
No.
Dixon,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Hayes,
No.
Peterson,
No.
Petrelli,
Yes. No, I'm sorry. No, sorry. No, it's the way you're reading it. Sorry.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Robertson,
Yes.
Skidmore,
Yes.
Waters.
Yes.
Okay, Clary. So that changes 6 to 7.
That fails 6 to 7. My next proposal is amendment number 3. This came from suggestions from Alderman Campbell, Alderman Edwards, and Alderman Cunningham. It would be to replace the entire paragraph, that's paragraph 11 in section 2, with this wording. If the position of Chief of Operations becomes vacant, the mayor is to appoint a current Hendersonville department head to serve as acting Chief of Operations. That person will step down upon the board's confirmation of a person to serve as the permanent Chief of Operations, as outlined in section 2, paragraph 2. The mayor will submit a person for the position of the board's approval within 60 days of the position being vacated.
So moved.
I'll make a motion. Alderman Cunningham seconds it. Thank you so much. This text is more restrictive on the mayor than what we passed 2 weeks ago. I think that the mayor should be allowed to hire whomever they would like as the acting city chief of operations if the permanent chief of operations leaves. I think he should be able to appoint whoever that person would like. Under what this wasn't even proposed when we created the position of city administrator. It's far more restrictive than we have the city administrator. It's more restrictive than what we passed 2 weeks ago. However, I took into account some items that were suggested by a couple aldermen. And in the spirit of finding peace and searching for a way to appeal to more folks overall with this ordinance, I've made this motion here. I don't see anybody waving their hand wildly or brushing back their hair.
I'm going to ask a question.
Okay, Alderman Edwards.
Unless anybody else is in.
You're good.
Okay, so just so we're clear, if this person, the chief of operations, is no longer employed for whatever reason, you would appoint a department head immediately, but we would not approve.
Right.
Is that correct? Okay, so
That-
we would not approve.
Right.
Okay, so it would just be in effect. I don't have the written amendment in front of me for a period of what is in your proposed amendment?
Yeah,
Maximum 60
Yeah, it
days.
also starts the clock on 60 days.
Okay, just so everybody's clear. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that, Alderman Edwards. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, department heads, at least they've been vetted by BOMA. They have been before. They've been to the hiring process, and they have been before BOMA to be approved. That's what I like. I was having trouble with the pay grade of 22, and I was going to bring that up if you didn't. So I appreciate that. And what if when the employee is through serving as the COO, they will go back to their original job, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, just want to make sure that's in there. I just want to make sure they're protected and don't go there, and in 60 days they're out of a job, period, with the city of Hendersonville. So thank you, sir. That's all I had. Just wanted to
Appreciate
double check.
Alderman Brown.
Guess that's a new signal, but I don't have a lot of hair, so it feels good to do that. Maybe people will think I have a lot of hair. Mr. Campbell, you're laughing. That's not fair. You have a lot of hair. I don't want our folks, I appreciate the amendment and I will support the amendment because that's where I was 2 weeks ago. I also voted for the amendment was presented 2 weeks ago at the level of 22. And I don't want I actually took a look at how many grade level 22s that we have in the city. And we got some fine people that work for us that have made it up the ladder to that pay scale, and that I wholeheartedly would trust in that seat for a little bit of time. But I just think it makes good sense, and I'm that we have one of our department heads in that position. So I appreciate the amendment, Mayor. I think it's a good one, but I certainly don't want our folks that are a level 22 or above or 23 to think that I or anyone else would think that they were not worthy of doing a job. But I just think that's it makes good sense to put one of our department heads in there. So I thank you for that time. Probably said more than I need to, but I got to.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Mayor, would you be so kind as to restate that whole thing?
Sure. We would remove, let's see, so we would remove what the text is in paragraph 11 now, that's section 2, paragraph 11. And the text for paragraph 11 would be, this is what follows. If the position of chief of operation becomes vacant, the mayor is to appoint a current Hendersonville department head to serve as acting chief of operations. That person will step down upon the board's confirmation of a person to serve as the permanent chief of operations as outlined in section 2, paragraph 2. The mayor will submit a person for the position for the board's approval within 60 days of the position being vacated.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor,
Alderman Petrelli.
sorry, I'm just jumping in there because I don't have the hand. I just want to make sure that that director who is put in as a placeholder is protected and that they are guaranteed to have their job back with all pay, benefits, vacation days, everything where it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't even address that, so there's every reason to that would be the expectation.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Cunningham, your hand's still up? Nope, okay. Oh, good. All those in favor of this proposed amendment, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye, and Mayor, I appreciate the compromise. I really do.
Dixon.
Aye.
Edwards.
Aye.
Hayes.
Yay.
Peterson.
Aye.
Petrelli.
Aye.
Robertson.
Aye.
Skidmore.
In the spirit of compromise, I'll vote aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
That's unanimous, all 13-4.
Thank you, Nat. That passes unanimously. Next, we're back on the main motion of ordinance 2020-53. I want to tell you all that I intend to take a break when we finish this. And we'll probably do something similar to what we did last time, is we'll just all step away from from our computers for 5 minutes, and then I'll come on back. So we're back on the main motion as amended. We've passed two amendments that changed 4 paragraphs. Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Cunningham, I am going to take your hand down if I can. There we go. Any of y'all here? Russ? Alderman Edwards.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, do you plan on voting for this even though one of your proposed amendments did not pass? I'm just being, because I don't want to support this if you don't vote for it.
This goes farther than I ever thought I would go. And it's past my threshold of compromise. It's far past it. But I think it's in the best interest of the city. So I'm gonna vote for it. I appreciate the question.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor of ordinance 2020-53 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli.
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13-4.
That passed unanimously. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take a 5-minute break. We're not gonna take a vote on taking a break. I'm just gonna sit here. I'm not gonna call on anybody. I'm not gonna say anything. So let's get back here at 9:12. Thank y'all.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you. All this is still on. Okay. Cool. So just y'all, all the microphones are still on. Thank you. Yeah. Good. You want me to stay? Here, if you want to talk to me, let me come down there. Oh, okay.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
Good job, John. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
You okay? 13. That's good. Yeah, 13. Your question would usually annoy me, but I understand why you asked. I told you because I waffled on the whole thing. Well, yeah.
Hey, Jamie, I just saw a Facebook post.
Oh, really? How's she doing?
She's doing great.
Good job. Oh, my word. That's more than great. That is more than great. Okay. Thank you, Dave. So we should be done pretty soon.
It'd been a grand slam, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So we should be done pretty soon. Yeah. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all being here.
Having us.
Yes, yes. So we're gonna talk about committee meetings pretty soon. About a couple things. About them being here and about them, and about the reports from those.
So the committee meeting is going to be, so it wouldn't interfere with them being here if they'd like to be here for a hybrid meeting.
In reality, it's up to the chairman. But the committee meetings, where they are, but we can, one of the things I suggested is move the time. You don't have to meet it. I mean, you don't have to meet at a certain time. The chairman can change those. And that happens very often. So.
And these committee met from 6 to 7, correct?
Mhm.
He was 6 to 7. If they could just meet 9 to 6.
Yeah. That's the key, is not meeting at 6.
Just so they can get here in time.
Yeah. Should just turn this off.
we got to get together on that.
And that is going to be just a second. Tina, if you want to take down the message there, that'd be good. Okay, thank you. Y'all, we're going to start in about 30 seconds.
Y'all be careful.
Jason, are you ready for us? Y'all, we're going to get started in just a second. Let me count to 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Jason, we good? Okay, thank you. Yo, we're gonna continue with our meeting. The next item we have here is first reading of ordinance 2020-51. This is an ordinance rezoning the property located on the east side of Calendar Lane on the north side of East Main Street in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Alderman Peterson, I'm going to go ahead and make the motion for this. Typically, I would call on you to do that, but we'll explain that in just a minute. It's sort of a policy I have about who sponsors it, but we're certainly looking for a second. So I'm going to so move that we approve ordinance 2020-51. Looking for a second. A second from Alderman Waters. Alderman Peterson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I am the sponsor on this ordinance. However, this passed through planning before I was appointed to the committee. And what I'd like to do is refer this to Director Free to let us know more about this. Thank you.
Keith?
Yes.
There you go. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, but what you have before you tonight is the first reading of a rezoning for property to rezone from RR to general commercial. The applicant, I think there's a representative of the applicant that's here this evening that can answer any specific questions. This is a property that was more than a year ago that it was before the Planning Commission and before the BOMA at that time, and there was a rezoning that failed at that particular time. This is not the same applicant that applied during the last time, and the applicant can address any specific questions as to what their interest is, and I can answer any questions that anyone would have.
Without objection, we're going to suspend the rules to hear a representative from the applicant. However, if we don't have any questions, it's really not necessary that he speak. And if we do come to you, I want you to identify yourself, what your position is, and what your responsibility is with this request. Keith, we may come back to you. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you. And are you going to let the applicant speak?
That's going to be up to if somebody has a question for him.
All right. May I?
Sure.
Ask, is it Mr. Gresh? Is that your name? Gresh?
Yes, Gresh Martin. Yes.
Would you explain the use that you intend for this piece of property?
Yes, the intended use is my client is a Popeyes franchisee. He operates not only Popeyes, but Burger King restaurants, has over 25 Burger Kings, 5 Popeye stores in Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky. And his intent is to rezone the property to develop a Popeyes restaurant, Popeyes chicken restaurant.
Does your client understand that our process may require the applicant to make some off-site improvements along perhaps Calendar Lane and around that area? Is your client aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, and would be willing to work with the staff to fulfill those staff suggestions and requirements?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay. I may not have a question for Keith, but the reason I'm going to make a statement is because last time I was the one that made a motion to deny based on public interest. So I would like to put for the record my change of heart. There has been changes since my last vote. I do think that this rezoning is in the public interest based upon these two new facts. First, the Anderson Park development has been finalized. It's been finalized, in fact, to the point that they have contributed the voluntary impact fees to the city. So that is a new fact that I did not have when I was considering the previous rezoning request. Also, something new that I understand from the staff, from Mr. Free, is that in developing this property, they're going to take steps that will plan for the integration of this property with the other vacant Chenault property that's not for sale at this time. So it can be, according to Mr. Free and the staff, it can be integrated in at this point where that it will resemble kind of a planned development. So based upon those two findings that were not true at the last meeting, I intend to support this because I do believe that it is in the public interest. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Robertson. Keith, I need you to help us on some wording here. Do we just, if we're going to approve this, do we just approve first reading of ordinance 2020-51, or do we need to add any wording that comes from the Planning Commission or any technical text that needs to be in there?
No, the Mayor, the recommendation from the Planning Commission includes specific findings of fact. Okay. They have, so if BOMA, if you accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission, it's already coming along with specific findings of fact. So all that would need to occur is just with the ordinance the way that it is in the first reading. There wouldn't need to be anything added to it. And then again, this is straight zoning. So we can't do what's called contract zoning and add a bunch of things. There's certainly things, and the applicant understands that are going to be requirements once we get to the site plan stage of it. But at this point, it's just the rezoning from RR to general commercial.
Thank you, Keith. I appreciate that. I'm looking for people waving their hands or scratching their head or brushing their hair, and I don't see anybody. Oh, I'm sorry. The person right next to me wants to speak, and I apologize for that. Alderman Waters.
How you? I tell you what, this seat is comfortable, John. No wonder you like to sit here. Let me follow up for what my colleague in Ward 6 said, Keith, and to the gentleman that's representing. We are talking about a Popeyes, right?
Yes, sir.
I didn't hear you.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Popeye, nothing else.
That's correct.
Okay, because I've got people that's been calling me and they getting the word on the street about it's going to be something else, something else. I won't go into what they're telling me, but I want to go on record. It's going to be a Popeyes.
Yes. Yes, sir.
That's all I wanted to hear. Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that, Alderman Waters. Alderman Cunningham.
Okay, my thing didn't work. Okay, here we go. This is for Keith.
Alderman.
Okay. If Popeyes, if this client decides for whatever reason not to build the Popeyes, would this allowable use still be for, from what I could see from the zoning, would be for, the allowed uses would be for retail, restaurant, medical, and motor vehicle services and repair, minor, which would match a tire retailer and shop. Is that correct?
That's correct. If it's because it's just straight zoning, so whatever's permitted as a allowed principal use within that zone could be allowed.
Okay, so isn't this the same zoning that we had denied several? I don't remember when, it was like about 6 months ago, maybe longer.
Yes, it was a little over a year ago that was denied, but it was the same zoning classification.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Alderman Brown, did you have something?
my question is for Keith,
Yes, Alderman.
and I think it was just answered, but I want to ask it again. So we approved this rezoning. Popeyes goes away for whatever reason, and something else within that zoning package you just talked about wants to come in. Can they come in without coming back to us to get that voted on?
Yes, they can. They would, if it was anything else, of course, they'd have to go through the site plan process and work with staff and then get approval through the planning commission. But they would, if it was any permitted use would be allowed by right once the zoning was changed, as it is on all the other property that's.
Okay, I don't mind attacking the elephant in the room. If a Firestone store wanted to come back in there, if Popeyes didn't, would that be allowed?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Any other discussion? Alderman Waters.
Hard for you to see me. Thank you, Alderman Brown. You said exactly what I wanted to hear you say, and that's the reason I asked the question to the gentleman just now about what's going in there. Now, Keith, do you anticipate it won't even come back to BOMA if he changes his mind?
No, it's something, although the applicant, just as any straight zoning, and this applicant has been consistent over many months of that this is going to be a Popeyes, as well as on their application is clearly that's the intention. But the way zoning works, not planned development, that's different. But the way straight zoning works is you look and evaluate and changing it to a specific zone with the understanding that all those different allowable uses could potentially be allowed, just as they are on all the other general commercial property that exist across the street or within that area. Any of those particular uses of general commercial could be within that near area. Not just this property.
I'm just concerned about that location being something else, and I've got this gentleman's name, address, phone number, and everything. So I'm gonna keep in touch with him. Okay, I see Alderman Brown wants to come back in. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, thank you, Alderman Waters. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Gress, is that correct? Gress?
Yes, sir.
Pronounced correct? Okay. Your franchise owner, you said he had, well, I don't know what you said but your franchise owner has 5 Popeyes and 25 Burger Kings?
Yes, it's over 25 Burger Kings now, and he's got 5 Popeyes, and he's got several more in development in Middle Tennessee, Popeyes locations. He's been
Okay, that was my question. How many stores does he have in a metropolitan area? In Middle Tennessee, I'll give you 8 or 10 counties: Clarksville down past Murfreesboro and Columbia.
Roughly 30 stores. He's got 5 Burger Kings in Clarksville. He's got a Popeyes in Clarksville, another one that he's planning right now. He's got one in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, several more that he just closed on that he's going to develop in Murfreesboro, Lebanon, Hermitage. So he's approved for this site. He's gotten approved through corporate to develop a Popeyes, and that's intent. He is going to move forward.
Okay, that was my next question. Corporate's already approved his franchise for this location.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Brown. Alderman Edwards.
Okay, this question is for either Attorney Bradley or Keith Free. Can we make this contingent on the approval contingent on having a Popeyes, and if there's any other retailer that comes before us that must get approval for reapproval for zoning? Is that possible?
No,
we can't put any. Oh, go ahead.
I just said no. We can't do that. That would be illegal.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Skidmore.
Thank you very much. Normally how I feel about development in this community, especially restaurants and tire stores like that last one did us, and very much opposed to that. But I don't believe we have zoned other things that would say, hey, look, if they came before us and then they did the old switcheroo. But developers normally don't do that. And you all, and I don't know if you've thought about it. When this development first came in, I was worried about it too. But when, I found out that it was going to be a Popeyes, I was kind of excited. It's a restaurant, they've agreed. And I think Gresh, have you all already agreed to all staff comments on this project? Or you've worked out your agreements?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So if they've done that, and we need restaurants, think about it for a minute. Let's think about this for a minute. On a serious level, we've got a restaurant here. We've got a development right across the street, probably less than, 500 feet from this area. That's going to have, Keith, how many homes have we built over there in what is it, Avondale or something like that? Do you know what I'm talking about? The development of the condos, I guess.
Anderson Place.
Anderson Place, yes. We're going to have that right there. How many units are there? Are they proposing?
I think it was close to 200. I believe that.
We've got 200, so it's going to make it. No, if I was in the chicken business, that's where I would go. I really would. But commercial development, we've got to start looking at this. It's going to be more tax money for Hendersonville, but I just don't see it. And I know, listen, I used to feel the same way about it's going to be something different, but developers don't work that way. I would be very shocked if a tire store, Firestone, or any tire store went in there. So I know this is a shock, but I'm going to support it. I think it's when I found out it was a Popeyes, I was like, thank God it's not a Firestone or some kind of tire place, because quite frankly, I don't know what else. To be realistic speaking, I'm not sure what else could be actually put there with that land. I think people would go there. I think that we need more, we need more retail and restaurant in that area for Indian Lake, because that's what it was built and designed for. So when you when you all consider your vote tonight, I would hope that you would consider that it is commercial, and it is in that area that Hendersonville many years ago suggested that's what we wanted to do. And lo and behold, there's Indian Lake. They've agreed to staff comments. They're ready to roll. We'll get another shot at them again if anybody wants to do some investigative work. I know this board does stuff like that because we are the kings and the queens of investigating that kind of stuff, because we want to protect our city. And so I'm going to vote on it on first reading. They'll be coming back on second reading, and we'll get another shot at them. Hopefully they'll, come with their dog and pony show to see what it looks like, and that way we'll be able to see it. So I encourage you to at least vote it on first reading to see where it goes. But as far as, I was worried about, that could happen, about flipping it and doing something different, but I don't think this company's going to do that. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that, that decision to the board. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. I think we're about ready to vote. Gresh, I'll come to you, Alderman Petrelli, in just a second. Gresh, tell us what your connection is to the applicant.
So I'm the representative real estate broker that's working on the deal, and my client is Newellberg Holdings. That's the franchisee developing the Popeyes.
The one who has applied for this rezoning.
That's correct.
Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Free.
Yes, Alderman.
Thank you. When I was on the Planning Commission, several times we had conversations about logo architecture. And in the past, when we've had some businesses, unfortunately, remove their practice from here per se, we were left with buildings which required quite a bit of manipulation to get rid of the logo architecture. With that not being in the packet, have you seen any preliminary designs?
I have not for the site. They've just looked at the site layout of how the building would lay out and the parking is what they've looked at. But I'm confident we can work with them or whatever goes on that site. If it was some other restaurant or if it's Popeyes, we can work with them and make sure through the planning staff and then ultimately through the planning commission to make sure we don't have a situation, for lack of a better word, like the Krispy Kreme.
That's my concern, because what I would recommend, and I did this on the planning commission several times, is that should a business go vacant and there's logo architecture, that they be required to remove that with them so that we're not sitting there for years looking at a building that's graphically earmarked to a condition that it no longer is.
And I think Gresh could probably address this as well, but the applicant in our discussions with them, and they very much understand that this will probably be the very nicest Popeyes that they have. It'll be one of the, as far as visually, it'll be something very attractive, because that's where our bar is in this community. Is every building, just like as you were saying, we want buildings that could evolve over time in 10 to 15 years, and
Sure.
Wouldn't look like wouldn't necessarily look like a Popeyes. Could easily convert to a pharmacy or a doctor's office or something. So without a whole lot of cost to do that. So we think about those things.
Thank
Yes, and
you.
I'm sorry, my client takes pride in what he develops, and he wants to do something that's to a standard the city would want. And, he'll be submitting a package of elevations when we get to that point. So yes, he'll be agreeable to that. And then also to remove the logos in the future, some kind of provision that'd be done if anything were to happen in the business were, if he would need to do that. So.
Thank you.
Gresh, thank you. Alderman Petrelli, anything else? Anybody else? All those in favor of ordinance 2020-51, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
For the sake of moving it along, aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
No.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
No.
Hayes,
Abstain.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
No.
Clary.
Aye.
Nine ayes, 3 noes, 1 abstain.
Thank you, Annette. That passes with a majority vote. Randy Perry, we need to know who you are. Tina, what should we do in this situation?
I think they're associated with that applicant that with the Popeyes rezoning.
Keith, I appreciate that.
Randy Parents, a site engineer. Yes.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you, Gresh. Thank you for your help. Keith, thank you for your help. Next, we have first reading of ordinance 2021-1. This is an ordinance to replace unmarked CID vehicles. Alderman Campbell.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Campbell, a second from Alderman Waters. Alderman Campbell, you want to speak on this?
Yes, sir. It's just where we had a patrol car that was totaled. We had insurance funds that came in to replace that car, and we need to purchase a CID vehicle. And the total patrol car vehicle was $18,825. $1,000.59, and the auction proceeds of surplus vehicles was the amount of $19,529.20. Add those two funds together to come up with the funds to replace the CID vehicle that they're wanting to do.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Anybody else wish to participate in the discussion? Yep, Alderman Peterson, thank you.
What is CID?
It is.
Criminal Investigation Division.
There we go. With detectives. Thank you, Pat. Any other discussion? All those in favor of ordinance 2021-1, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13-4. Oh.
That better? Thank you. I've put this on here, the item for discussion of committee reports, because we've had some discussions a little bit in the past and really haven't moved forward as far as we should. We have an ordinance. I'm going to ask Alderman Edwards to speak on this in just a second, completely unprepared. The ordinance that we have, as well as what Robert's Rules of Order states as far as committee reports. Simply, reports should be submitted in writing, and there shouldn't be a discussion. There should not be questions when those are on the agenda. I don't think that we should really make the whole leap to going to that point immediately, but certainly want to have a discussion and sort of see what the committee would like, with what the board would like me to do. The board has adopted Robert's Rules of Order, so already I'm not enforcing them by allowing discussion on committee reports. And we have an ordinance already. We are not abiding by our ordinance in that situation. Alderman Edwards, do you want to give us a little bit more, please? Hold on here. There you go.
No, I appreciate, Mayor, you giving me so much advance notice of this, but I pulled up ordinance 1-607, reports presented to the board. Apparently, by ordinance, the reports are supposed to be written reports. I guess since I've been on the board, it's been oral reports given, and I appreciate you bringing this up, Mayor. This may speed the meetings along. It may be more cumbersome to the committees or to the committee chairs, but I understand that. So the way I read this ordinance, that written reports, I guess, will be submitted at the following the meeting after, not really that night, but after the BOMA meeting, after the committee meeting, and the only time that it would be discussed is if there is required action by the board, the committee chairman shall request that the mayor include the item for the agenda. So, practically speaking, I guess the minutes of whoever makes the minutes of each committee report could submit that in the BOMA meeting following the committee meeting. And if anybody wants to discuss it, that could be done. It may expedite meetings, even though this meeting seems to be going fast. The last two meetings have almost went to midnight. So, yeah, I mean, I would support following the way the ordinance is instead of requiring oral reports of the committees. And most of the BOMA members go to the committee meetings. Since it's been by Zoom, it has been easier. So I don't know if that's all you need from me, Mayor, but I would support doing written and having it part of the agenda, just having it in our packets.
Okay. Appreciate that, Alderman Edwards. Alderman Cunningham.
The way the ordinance is written, we're not supposed to ask questions, right?
Exactly right.
So just enforce that. I think at the beginning, I think we should take baby steps. If we could just hold our report to, maybe a time limit of 5 minutes, that would be wonderful. Excuse me?
You want me to enforce that?
Well, yeah. If, just kind of, we bullet point what we discussed. I mean, I try to rush through what I went through in our meeting, and with no additional dialogue. I try my best to do that. I do. And, but if we could just, no questions, business, that's it, you're done. Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate it, Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Brown, do you want to speak on this?
I do.
Good.
Thank you. I agree, some reports can get extremely lengthy, especially when we get into a lot of questions. The ordinance that Mr. Edwards read, I think was done back in the late 80s. This is the early 21s. I hope it's better than 2020. I think everybody does, but that ordinance, I think, was probably more fashion at that time. We didn't have access as we do now. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have some of the other things, but I want us to be very cautionary about transparency. And I think that's always a discussion, from those folks that are watching us right now and other folks. I want us to be very informative to each other. I don't know I did attend finance. I attended half of Public Works tonight because I wanted to get home so I could be on the Finance Committee meeting and then be on this meeting. So I missed some time in there. I do attend a lot of the meetings, either in person or through Zoom right now. But the ordinance, I think, really kind of ties our hands a bit. The meetings tonight, if we give no reports, no one on the board would have those reports until the next meeting in their packet, unless we discussed them somehow, which maybe that would hinder us in breaking the sunshine law of me calling my partner over here, Miss Dixon, and I mean that only in a business way, to inform her of what we carried on in general committee meeting. So I don't know that I agree. I would like to see things expedited. I think our last 2 or 3 meetings have not been as long, a little bit longer, but we really took care of some business. Maybe we limit it to just the report. And if there's a question or two, put that at the tail end. But I don't, maybe this is just me, but I don't want to miss anything that I feel like I need to get before 2 weeks is out. And in some cases, that might even be 4 weeks. So I think we could put a work in progress here, how to make this better. You control the gavel, or in this case, the button. So maybe we depend a little bit more on you to enforce Robert's rules when one of us starts to pontificate about whatever we might do. I don't know. It's just opinion. I think we need to be very careful. Do what?
I don't like where this is going.
Okay. You're included. So I don't, we'll just wave at you and say, so I don't know. I think we just need to be very careful at what we do, but I think somehow we need to give our oral reports. But I'm okay doing the written reports, even though I've never done one since 2004. So.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, thank you. I've thought about this before when we had, well, I'm not even going to raise that issue of about other aldermen we've all served with and that kind of thing happening, and including myself. I just will say this: Public Works is an issue that in 24 hours there could be something major that you all need to know about in your specific ward. And including the mayor might have something that needs to be told. And if you don't have, and here's what we're forgetting, at least the way that I see it, we're forgetting about the people that actually, the citizens that watch this show, and that is a show. It's the best, you know, sometimes I always say it's better than all my children or One Life to Live. But we've all been getting along real well. And even if we're not getting along real well, it doesn't bother me. I'm not offended by it, but there are some things dealing with public works that you all really need to know. I need to know, and I need to bring it to your attention. I try to keep my comments as limited as possible. But when it comes to garbage and trash and street paving and drainage issues, it may take a little longer to explain some of that. And I try to explain it to the best of my ability where everybody understands. So as far as a written report, yeah, you can do that. And if you'll notice, if you can, I guarantee you, you go back last year, and I've said a lot of times, I've just said no report, because there were things that we did that really weren't, that weren't things that something that you're not going to lose any sleep over, you see what I mean? I think Steve's right about this, but in terms of having oral reports, but I think we need to keep them. And if I get overzealous, hell, just stop me. Just say, hey, Skid, you've said enough. And I'll say, okay, because it doesn't bother me. And I don't think it would offend anybody else if you come and say, okay, Jamie comes and hits the button and stops. But you need to know the stuff that we have. So, my position is on that is you got to know about some of this stuff, man, especially when it's raining. We have a tornado. I could sit here all night and talk about it, but I'm not going to. But I would be in opposition of shutting down oral reports. I really would.
Chairman Skidmore, thank you. We're going to go to Alderman Campbell, and then we'll come to Alderman Petrelli. Go ahead.
We're just going to say Alderman Petrelli would like to speak. So thank you.
Petrelli.
Thank you, Alderman Campbell and Mayor Clary. So one of the interesting dynamics over this last year with all of our meetings being on Zoom is that I've had a lot more feedback from constituents on our subcommittee meetings, because folks are actually able to view those, because in the subcommittee meetings, that's where a lot of the work is getting done and decisions are being made prior to coming to BOMA, and you can see why decisions or who made what decisions. So while I do agree that the committee reports could be maybe in a timed fashion, like some have suggested, I do think for the sake of transparency with our constituents, it would be good to at least keep a concise committee report. But going into the future, and I know it would be challenging since we have committees, on the same nights, even though that they're staggered, it would be great to keep the subcommittee meetings on camera so that folks can see why certain decisions were made on BOMA when there's maybe not as much discussion on BOMA, because all of the discussions were had in subcommittee. I don't know how that would be feasible from a time management standpoint or IT, but I do think that would be helpful. But thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Petrelli, thank you. So y'all, here's where I'm leaning. I'm leaning toward continuing to allow brief committee reports orally. Okay, but no discussion. At the time of committee reports, no discussion. Brief committee reports, no discussion. And then I'll place on the agenda every meeting at the tail end of the agenda, discussion of committee reports. If anybody wants to ask a question then, if anybody wants to discuss it then, that's sort of where I'm leaning. We're going to go through trial and error on this, but I think that's where I'm leaning for the next committee meeting. I can't enforce the ordinance that you provide written committee reports, but I certainly would hope that we would do that. Alderman Brown.
I think that's a good start. I mean, that actually puts us kind of where we are. But it maybe gives us time to think about what that question pops up in our mind. But I think the opportunity to ask a question. Now, are you talking? Let me see if you can clarify that. Are you talking just us? If I want to ask Chairman Campbell a question or Chairman Skidmore a question, or if Ms. Collins wants to ask me a question, that's what you're talking about, just the 13 on the board.
It's the opportunity for aldermen to ask questions of the chairman.
Okay.
The chairman have no obligation to answer those.
Yeah, well, that would aggravate
Well,
me
he
if somebody didn't
should.
answer me, but yeah, I understand. So, okay, but I think that's a good start, and I for one normally give a pretty fast report, and I will continue to try to do that. So you have my promise. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this? Alderman Edwards, hold on just a second.
Briefly, what do y'all think about possibly having the committee reports at the end of the meeting? I really think that our vote, what we're here for is to vote on items primarily, and that should really take place first. I mean, it's just an idea, maybe putting it at the end. Maybe if it is at the end, people may lose a lot of their enthusiasm to talk about trash and potholes. So that may reduce the time we talk about it. It's just an idea.
I appreciate that. Let me ask John Bradley. Right now we have in an ordinance specified what the proposed agenda should be. Obviously, when the board votes on the agenda, we very often exchange places with some items. Is what Alderman Edwards, can we do that?
Yes, we can. We probably need to put that on the actual agenda so that when we're adopting the agenda, it's clear that's what we're going to do. That's what we've done before sometimes. When we're going to deviate from what the ordinance exactly says, we will just put a notation on the agenda. And you can put committee reports, no questions, or however you want to approach it. And if the board approves that agenda with those notations on it, then that'll be the rules of the day of that meeting.
Alderman Edwards, I don't think you said no questions there.
Oh, whatever. I mean, that's I just propose to maybe put it towards the end.
Okay. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. Can't we just limit them with the time limit and limit it to the votes that were actually taken at the committee? And then any discussion that wants to be taken over and above votes, put that at the end?
I would absolutely hope that the committee chairman would do that on their own. However, I know that sometimes there's a little bit more detail.
I'm done. You gotta do something different.
Excuse me. That there are a few more details that are expected. I think what you're asking is just common courtesy. I don't think I'm in a position to basically tell a chairman that's enough. That's going to be hard.
You don't want to be a policeman?
I don't want to be a policeman. Now, what I could do, and this is suggested by somebody else, what I could do is say that's 3 minutes and just let that speak for itself.
Yeah. Well, just a suggestion, so that we're not here until midnight
There's nobody disagrees with that.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Any other discussion on this? Oh, Alderman Robertson.
Question for Mr. Bradley. Is it a violation of the sunshine law for us to email, say I had a question concerning the Public Safety Committee that Chairman Campbell mentioned, that I wanted a little more information about, let's say, the purchase of CID vehicles. Is that a violation of the sunshine law to ask for clarification or more information on the abbreviated report that he gave?
Not so long as you're just asking for information. As long as it's not getting into any deliberations, then that would be fine.
Yeah, that might supplant the need to ask questions, is to have that clarification by the city attorney that we can ask those questions in an email, to get additional information if we need it. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it, Alderman Robertson. Alderman Collins.
I just want to point out that we've spent 15 minutes
Yeah.
talking about how we wish our co-aldermen would not talk as much. So maybe let's do something about the length of our meetings and be brief. That's all.
I now have a 20-minute mayor report. The only thing that I have here is I want to encourage our committee chairmen to be flexible with their meetings. Now that we're meeting in a hybrid meeting here at City Hall, if I think that our chairmen possibly need to schedule their meetings differently in order to fully go through their whole agenda and give people the opportunity to be at City Hall. Chairman, you can decide when and where you meet. That's up to you. That's one of the privileges of chairman. And I hope you provide some flexibility to your members on your committee in order for them to fully go through the agenda, as well as be able to get to City Hall if they desire to. Alderman Robertson. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn from Alderman Robertson, a second from Alderman Edwards. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls you. Alderman Brown, did you want to discuss this?
Aye. I was trying to second it,
Okay.
but I'm an aye because I'm first. So.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye when Annette calls your name. Those opposed, please say no.
Brown, one more time. Campbell.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
Dixon.
Aye.
Edwards.
Aye.
Hayes.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Petrelli.
Aye.
Robertson.
Aye.
Skidmore.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Clary.
Aye.
13-4.
Thank you, Annette. That passed unanimously. Jason, thank you very much for your help. Tina, thank you for your help. Annette, thank you very much for your help. Performed wonderfully. You all have a good night.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you
Right,
all.
everybody.
Glad you enjoyed